In the year 2147, humanity had spread far beyond Earth. The blue planet, once teeming with life, was now a distant memory, a toxic wasteland abandoned decades ago. People lived on colonies orbiting distant stars, trying to forget the mistakes that had destroyed their home. But not everyone could let go of the past. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, a small research vessel tasked with exploring uncharted regions of space. His crew consisted of 6 members, each skilled in their own field. Dr. Lisa Munro, the ship's xenobiologist, spent most of her time studying alien ecosystems. Commander Eric Hayes, a no-nonsense military veteran, kept the team disciplined and focused. Then there were engineers, pilots, and medics who made the mission possible. Together, they formed a tight-knit group, though tensions occasionally flared under the pressure of deep space exploration. It was during one of these routine missions that everything changed. While scanning for signs of habitable planets, the ship's communication array picked up something unusual, a faint signal drifting through the void. At first, the crew thought it might be interference or a glitch, but when they analyzed it further, they realized it was a transmission. And it wasn't coming from just anywhere. It was coming from Earth. Ryan called the team together in the conference room. The walls were lined with monitors displaying star maps and data streams. Everyone sat around the table, their faces tense with curiosity. "Listen carefully," Ryan said as he played the recording. Static crackled at first, but then a voice emerged, clear and deliberate. "You'll regret this conflict," it said. The message ended abruptly, leaving an eerie silence in the room. "What does it mean?" asked Lisa, breaking the quiet. Her brow furrowed as she leaned forward. "Who is you? And what conflict are they talking about?" Eric crossed his arms, his expression skeptical. "Could be a trick. Maybe someone's trying to lure us back to Earth. But why would anyone do that?" Lisa countered. "Earth is dead. There's nothing left there." Ryan rubbed his chin, thinking. He knew Eric had a point. Returning to Earth was risky. The atmosphere was poisonous, and the surface was overrun by mutated wildlife. Still, the transmission gnawed at him. Something about it felt personal, as if it were meant for humanity itself. "We need to investigate," Ryan finally said. "If there's even a chance this message is real, we can't ignore it." The room erupted into debate. Some agreed with Ryan, arguing that ignoring the signal would make them cowards. Others sided with Eric, warning that curiosity could lead to disaster. After hours of discussion, Ryan made the final call. They would head to Earth. The journey took weeks. During that time, the crew prepared for the worst. They checked their equipment, reviewed survival protocols, and ran simulations of potential scenarios. Despite their preparations, unease lingered in the air. No one spoke much, each lost in their own thoughts. When they finally arrived, Earth looked like a graveyard. Thick clouds of ash blocked out the sun, casting the planet in perpetual twilight. Oceans had turned into acidic swamps, and cities were buried beneath layers of vines and moss. It was a haunting sight, a reminder of what humanity had lost. As they flew lower, scanning the surface, they noticed strange structures scattered across the landscape. Tall, angular shapes jutted out of the ground, glowing faintly in the dim light. These weren't natural formations. They were man-made, or perhaps something else entirely. Ryan glanced at his crew. "Whatever's down there," he said, "we're about to find out." The shuttle descended slowly through Earth's toxic atmosphere, its engines humming against the eerie silence below. Ryan Carter gripped the controls tightly, his eyes scanning the desolate landscape outside the viewport. The once familiar continents were now unrecognizable, entire cities swallowed by nature, rivers dried up or turned into streams of acid. It was a grim reminder of how far humanity had fallen. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Monroe stared out the window, her face pale with awe and dread. "It's like looking at a corpse," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the shuttle's hum. Eric Hayes sat in the back, arms crossed, his expression unreadable but tense. He didn't trust this mission, and every passing second seemed to confirm his doubts. The team landed near one of the strange structures they'd spotted from orbit, a towering obelisk that pulsed faintly with light. Its surface was smooth and metallic, etched with intricate patterns that glowed softly in shades of blue and green. Up close, it looked otherworldly, as if it didn't belong on Earth at all. "This thing wasn't here when we left," Lisa said, stepping cautiously toward it. She ran her gloved hand along its surface, feeling a faint vibration beneath her fingers. "It's some kind of technology, but I've never seen anything like it." Eric frowned, keeping his distance. "Could be a trap," he muttered. "We don't know who or what built this." Ryan ignored him, focusing instead on the structure. He pointed to the glowing symbols carved into its side. "These look like writing. Maybe we can translate them." Lisa nodded eagerly, pulling out a handheld scanner. "If we can decode these symbols, it might tell us why that message was sent, and who it was meant for." Before she could begin, however, movement caught their attention. Figures emerged from the shadows, surrounding the shuttle silently. They wore sleek silver suits that shimmered in the dim light, their faces obscured by reflective visors. Each figure stood perfectly still, radiating an air of calm authority. Ryan raised his hand slowly, signaling his crew to do the same. "We're not here to fight," he said firmly, addressing the strangers. "We came because of the signal. We want answers." One of the figures stepped forward, taller than the rest. A mechanical voice crackled through what appeared to be a translator embedded in its suit. "You have returned," it said, its tone neutral but firm. "We warned your ancestors." "Warned them about what?" Ryan asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if studying him. "About the cost of aggression. About regret." It paused, then gestured toward the obelisk. "This is our legacy, a testament to survival." Lisa exchanged a glance with Ryan, her mind racing. "Who are you?" she asked hesitantly. "And why are you on Earth?" "We are the Vern," the figure replied. "Refugees from a dying world. Your people attacked us centuries ago, driven by fear and misunderstanding. Now we rebuild where you abandoned hope." Eric stepped forward, his skepticism boiling over. "If you're refugees, why hide? Why build all this without reaching out?" The Vyrn leader regarded him coolly. "Because trust must be earned, and humanity has yet to prove itself worthy." Tension hung thick in the air as the two groups faced each other. Ryan knew they were treading dangerous ground. One wrong move could escalate into violence, but he also sensed an opportunity, an opening to bridge centuries of mistrust. "We're not here to make the same mistakes," Ryan said carefully. "We came seeking understanding. Let us learn from you." For a moment, the Vern leader said nothing. Then, with a slight nod, it gestured for the humans to follow. "Come," it said simply. "See what remains of your world, and ours." As they walked, guided by the silent figures, Ryan couldn't shake the weight of the situation. This wasn't just about uncovering the source of the transmission anymore. It was about confronting the sins of the past and deciding whether humanity deserved a second chance. The Vern led the crew of the Odyssey through a narrow path that wound between towering ruins and overgrown debris. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of Earth's history pressed down on them. Ryan Carter stayed close to the front, his eyes darting around, taking in every detail. Behind him, Lisa Monroe followed closely, her scanner humming softly as it collected data. Eric Hayes brought up the rear, his hand resting on the grip of his sidearm, ready for anything. They soon arrived at what appeared to be an entrance, a massive doorway carved into the side of a crumbling skyscraper. The Vern leader, who had introduced itself as Kale, gestured for them to enter. Inside, the air was cool and still, a stark contrast to the oppressive heat outside. The walls glowed faintly with the same blue-green light as the obelisk, illuminating the space without any visible source. "This is where we live," Cale said, its mechanical voice echoing slightly in the vast chamber. The room was filled with strange machinery, some of it pulsing with energy, others humming quietly. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing images of Earth before its collapse. Blue skies, green forests, bustling cities. It was a painful reminder of what humanity had lost. Lisa stepped closer to one of the displays, her eyes wide with fascination. "This technology, it's incredible," she whispered. "How did you manage to stabilize the environment? We thought it was beyond saving." Cale paused, tilting its head as if considering how much to reveal. "We adapted. Your people left this planet to die, but we saw potential. Using our knowledge, we repaired what could be saved. But it came at a cost." "What kind of cost?" Ryan asked, his voice cautious. Cale turned to face him, its reflective visor unreadable. "Your ancestors attacked us when we first arrived. They feared us, mistaking our presence for invasion. Many of us died. Those who survived chose isolation, rebuilding in secret while watching your species abandon this world." Eric scoffed, unable to hide his skepticism. "And now you're playing the victim. You just admitted you've been hiding here for centuries. Why not reach out? Why not try to fix things?" "Because trust cannot be forced," Cale replied sharply. "Your kind has proven time and again that fear drives your actions. Until you change, we will remain separate." Ryan glanced at Eric, silently urging him to stay calm. Turning back to Cale, he said, "We're not here to make excuses for the past. We want to understand. Maybe there's a way we can work together." Cale studied him for a moment, then gestured toward another section of the facility. "Come, there is more you need to see." They followed Cale deeper into the complex, passing through corridors lined with glowing panels. Finally, they entered a large chamber dominated by a massive holographic projection. It showed scenes from centuries ago. Human ships firing missiles at Vern vessels, explosions lighting up the sky, panic spreading across cities. The images were accompanied by fragmented audio recordings, panicked voices shouting orders, alarms blaring, and finally, the desperate cries of those caught in the crossfire. Lisa covered her mouth, visibly shaken. We did this," she stammered. "We attacked you." Cale nodded. "You saw us as a threat because you did not understand us, and when we tried to explain, it was too late." Ryan clenched his fists, anger and guilt swirling inside him. He hadn't been alive during those events, but he felt the weight of them all the same. "Is that why you sent the message?" he asked. "To warn us." "To remind you," Cale corrected. "History repeats itself unless lessons are learned. If you continue down this path, you will destroy yourselves, and perhaps others." The words hung heavy in the air. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Eric broke the silence. "So what do you expect us to do? Beg for forgiveness? Pretend everything's fine?" "No," Cale replied simply. "We expect nothing. The choice is yours." As they stood there, surrounded by echoes of the past, Ryan realized the enormity of their task. This wasn't just about uncovering the truth. It was about proving that humanity could change. But as he looked at Eric's hardened expression and Lisa's troubled gaze, he wondered if they were ready to face the challenge. The mood on the shuttle back to the Odyssey was heavy, almost suffocating. Ryan Carter sat in the pilot's seat, his hands gripping the controls tightly, though the ship was flying smoothly on autopilot. Behind him, Lisa Monroe stared out the window, her face pale and distant. Eric Hayes leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his jaw clenched as if he were biting back words he didn't want to say. "What are we supposed to do now?" Lisa finally asked, breaking the silence. Her voice was quiet but carried a weight that filled the small cabin. "Cale showed us everything. The attack, their survival, their work to fix Earth. But what does it mean for us?" Ryan sighed, rubbing his temples. "It means we have a choice to make. Do we take this information back to the colonies and hope someone listens, or do we try to handle it ourselves?" And what exactly would handling it look like? Eric snapped, his frustration boiling over. We're just 6 people on a tiny research vessel. Even if we wanted to fix things, we don't have the power or resources. Lisa turned to face him, her eyes narrowing. So you think we should just ignore it? Pretend we never saw any of this? I didn't say that, Eric shot back. But let's be realistic. Humanity doesn't exactly have a great track record when it comes to learning from its mistakes. What makes you think anything will change this time? Ryan held up a hand, cutting off the argument before it could escalate further. Enough. Fighting won't solve anything. We need to focus on what matters. What's right. Right for who? Eric muttered under his breath, but he didn't push the issue. When they arrived back at the Odyssey *, the crew began preparing to leave Earth's orbit. Everyone moved quietly, lost in their own thoughts. The weight of what they'd learned hung over them like a storm cloud, making even simple tasks feel exhausting. As Lisa reviewed the data she'd collected, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. Something about Cal's warning felt urgent, as if the Vern weren't just talking about humanity's past, but its future. Meanwhile, Eric worked on the ship's systems, double-checking every detail to ensure they were ready for departure. But as he ran diagnostics, he noticed something odd. A series of unauthorized commands buried deep in the shuttle's logs. At first, he thought it might be a glitch, but the more he dug, the clearer it became. Someone had tampered with the shuttle's navigation system. Frowning, Eric traced the source of the interference to a private terminal in the engineering bay. When he confronted the person responsible, he found Samantha Drake, one of the junior engineers, hastily closing a program on her screen. She looked up at him, her face flushed with guilt. "What are you doing?" Eric demanded, his voice sharp. Samantha hesitated, then sighed. "I was trying to disable the shuttle, just for a little while. I didn't want us to leave yet." "Why would you do that?" Eric asked, his tone incredulous. "Do you realize how dangerous that is, if something went wrong?" "I know," Samantha interrupted, her voice trembling. "But I couldn't let us walk away from this. Not after what we saw down there. We can't just leave the Vern behind." Eric stared at her, torn between anger and understanding. He knew she wasn't entirely wrong. Walking away felt wrong to him too. But sabotaging the mission wasn't the answer. "This isn't your call to make," he said finally. "If you have concerns, you bring them to the captain. You don't act on your own." Before Samantha could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and the intercom crackled to life. "Unidentified vessel approaching," came the panicked voice of the radar operator. "They're heading straight for us." Ryan rushed onto the bridge, his expression grim. On the main screen, a large ship loomed closer, its design unfamiliar but clearly human-made. It wasn't military, but it wasn't friendly either. Pirates or scavengers. Either way, they spelled trouble. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. Ryan nodded. "Put them through." A woman's face appeared on the screen, her sharp features framed by wild hair. "This is Captain Samantha Drake of the Eclipse *, she said, her voice cold and commanding. "Hand over your data on the Vern, and we'll let you live." Ryan exchanged a glance with Eric. They both knew this wasn't going to end peacefully. Ryan Carter stared at the screen, his mind racing. The woman calling herself Captain Samantha Drake smirked confidently, her eyes gleaming with greed. Behind her, the crew of the Eclipse * moved about their ship, armed and ready for action. It was clear they weren't here to negotiate. They wanted what the Odyssey * had discovered about the Vern, no matter the cost. "We don't have anything you need," Ryan said firmly, trying to keep his voice steady. "Leave now, or we'll defend ourselves." Drake laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the comms. "Defend yourselves? With what? That tin can you call a ship?" She leaned closer to the camera, her expression turning icy. "You're outnumbered and outgunned. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Before Ryan could respond, Eric Hayes stepped forward. "Let me handle this," he said quietly, taking control of the situation. He turned back to the screen. "You've made a mistake coming here. Whatever you think you know about the Vern, you're wrong. They're not just some prize to steal from." Drake's smirk faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. "I don't care about their sob story. All I care about is their tech, and if you won't hand it over willingly, I'll take it by force." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Ryan turned to his crew. "We can't let them get to the Vern. If they find out where the facility is, they'll destroy everything." Lisa Monroe nodded, her face pale but determined. "We have to warn the Vern. They trusted us, and now we're the only ones who can protect them." "But how?" one of the engineers asked. "We're sitting ducks up here." Eric crossed his arms, thinking quickly. "We split our forces. Some of us stay on the *Odyssey* to hold off the *Eclipse*. The rest go down to Earth and help the Vern prepare for an attack." Ryan hesitated, weighing the risks. It was a desperate plan, but they didn't have many options. "All right," he said finally. "Eric, you lead the team on the surface. Lisa, you're with him. The rest of us will stay here and buy you as much time as we can." Within minutes, the crew sprang into action. Eric and Lisa climbed into the shuttle, along with 2 others, while Ryan stayed behind to coordinate the defense. As the shuttle descended toward Earth, the *Eclipse* began its assault. Bright beams of energy shot across space, narrowly missing the *Odyssey* as it maneuvered to evade. Down on the surface, Eric's team landed near the Vern facility. Kale and several other Vern greeted them, their expressions unreadable behind their reflective visors. "You return," Kale said, its mechanical voice calm but wary. "Why?" "There's no time to explain," Eric replied urgently. "A hostile ship is attacking us in orbit. They're after your technology. You need to prepare for a ground assault." Kale tilted its head slightly, then gestured for its people to move. "We anticipated this possibility. Follow me." Inside the facility, the Vern worked quickly, activating defensive systems that hummed with power. Panels slid open to reveal hidden weapons, energy turrets and drones designed to protect the complex. Lisa watched in amazement as the once passive aliens transformed into a well-coordinated defense force. Back in orbit, the *Odyssey* fought valiantly against the *Eclipse*. Ryan ordered the crew to fire bursts of plasma at the enemy ship, forcing it to retreat momentarily. But the *Eclipse* was larger and more heavily armed, and it wasn't long before the *Odyssey* shields began to weaken. "They're launching boarding pods," the radar operator shouted. Ryan clenched his fists. "Prepare for close combat. We hold them off as long as we can." As chaos erupted on both fronts, the crew of the *Odyssey* and the Vern fought side by side, united by a shared goal: survival. Despite the odds, hope flickered faintly in the darkness. For the first time, humanity and the Vern stood together, not as enemies, but as allies. The battle raged on 2 fronts, above Earth's toxic skies and deep within its scared surface. On the *Odyssey*, Ryan Carter led his crew with grim determination. The boarding pods from the Eclipse* had breached the ship, and armed scavengers poured into the corridors, their weapons blazing. Sparks flew as energy blasts hit metal walls, and the air was thick with smoke and shouts. "Hold them back," Ryan yelled, firing his weapon at an advancing group of attackers. His crew fought fiercely, using every trick they knew to keep the invaders at bay. But the scavengers were relentless, pushing deeper into the ship with each passing moment. In the engine room, one of the engineers sacrificed himself to seal off a critical section, buying precious time for the others. "We can't keep this up forever," the communications officer said, her voice trembling as she reloaded her weapon. Ryan didn't respond. He couldn't afford to think about failure. Not now. Every second they held out gave Eric and Lisa more time to help the Vern prepare for the ground assault. That thought alone kept him moving forward, even as exhaustion weighed heavily on him. Down on Earth, Eric Hayes and Lisa Monroe worked alongside the Vern to fortify the facility. Cal directed its people with quiet authority, deploying drones and activating hidden defense systems. The once calm underground complex hummed with activity, its glowing panels casting eerie shadows across the walls. "They're coming," one of the Vern warned, pointing to the horizon. In the distance, dropships descended from the sky, kicking up clouds of ash as they landed. Armed scavengers spilled out, their weapons aimed at the facility. Eric tightened his grip on his rifle. "Stay close," he told Lisa, who nodded silently, her face pale but resolute. Together, they took positions near the entrance, ready to defend it alongside the Vern. When the first wave of scavengers attacked, the defenders unleashed a barrage of energy fire. The Vern's turrets roared to life, cutting down several enemies before they could get close. Drones zipped through the air, targeting anyone who tried to flank the position. For a while, it seemed like they might hold their ground. But the scavengers kept coming, wave after wave, overwhelming the defenses bit by bit. Eric gritted his teeth as he fired another shot, taking down one attacker only to see two more take his place. Beside him, Lisa worked tirelessly to repair damaged equipment, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. "We can't last much longer," Eric shouted over the noise. "We need reinforcements." Cale turned to him, its reflective visor unreadable. "There is one option left, a fail-safe system buried deep in the facility. It will destroy the complex and everything in it." Eric froze, staring at the Vern leader. "Are you saying we blow ourselves up?" "No," Cale replied calmly. "You must escape. My people will stay behind to activate the system. It is our duty to protect what remains." Before Eric could argue, Lisa grabbed his arm. "We don't have a choice. If we don't stop them here, they'll go after other colonies. This has to end." Reluctantly, Eric nodded. With heavy hearts, the human team retreated toward the shuttle, leaving the Vern to make their final stand. As they lifted off, Eric looked back at the facility, watching as explosions lit up the nightmarish landscape below. The scavengers' ships were caught in the blast, their greedy ambitions reduced to ash. Back aboard the Odyssey Ryan and his crew managed to repel the remaining scavengers, forcing the Eclipse to retreat. Exhausted but victorious, they regrouped on the bridge, where Eric and Lisa shared the news of the Vern's sacrifice. "They saved us," Lisa said softly, tears streaming down her face. "They trusted us, and they gave everything to protect us." Ryan stared out at the ruined planet below, his heart heavy with gratitude and sorrow. Their fight wasn't just for themselves, it was for all of us. We owe them more than words. We owe them action. As the Odyssey pulled away from Earth, the crew vowed to honor the Vern's memory. They would carry their story back to humanity, not as conquerors or cowards, but as allies determined to build a better future. The journey back to the colonies was quiet, almost somber. The crew of the Odyssey moved through their tasks mechanically, each lost in their own thoughts. Ryan Carter spent most of his time on the bridge, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. The weight of what had happened on Earth pressed heavily on him. He replayed every moment. The battles, the sacrifices, and the Vern's final act of courage, over and over in his mind. Lisa Monroe sat in the ship's lab, reviewing the data she collected during their time with the Vern. She scrolled through holographic images of their technology, their writings, and the recordings they had shared. Each piece of information felt like a treasure, but also a burden. "They trusted us," she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. "And we let them down." Eric Hayes, usually so stoic and unshakable, seemed different too. He spent hours alone in the observation deck, watching the stars streak past as the ship traveled faster than light. For the first time in years, He allowed himself to feel something other than duty or discipline. Guilt gnawed at him, not just for doubting the Vern earlier, but for humanity's role in their suffering. He didn't speak much, but when he did, his words carried a newfound resolve. "We can't go back to how things were," Eric said one evening during a rare conversation with Ryan. "If we do, then everything they did, all the lives lost, it'll mean nothing." Ryan nodded slowly. "You're right. We have to change. But how do we make sure others see that too? Humanity doesn't exactly have a great track record when it comes to learning from its mistakes." "That's why we start small," Lisa interjected, joining them unexpectedly. She held up a data chip containing everything they'd gathered about the Vern. "This is our proof. Their story, their struggle, their sacrifice, it's all here. If we share this with the colonies, maybe people will listen. Maybe they'll understand." As the Odyssey approached the nearest human settlement, the crew prepared for what came next. They knew not everyone would believe them, and some might even dismiss the Vern story as fiction or exaggeration. But Ryan, Lisa, and Eric agreed. They couldn't stay silent. The truth mattered too much. When they docked, reporters and officials swarmed the ship, eager for news of their mission. Ryan stepped forward to address them, his voice steady despite the knot of nerves in his stomach. "We went to Earth seeking answers," he began. "But what we found was a warning, a reminder of who we are and what we've done. The Vern weren't our enemies. They were victims of our fear and ignorance. And now, because of their sacrifice, we have a chance to do better." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "We owe it to them, and to ourselves, to learn from this, to build bridges instead of walls, to choose understanding over aggression. If we don't, then their deaths will have been for nothing." The crowd fell silent, unsure how to respond. Some looked skeptical, while others seemed moved. It would take time to spread the message, to convince people to see the bigger picture. But the crew of the Odyssey wasn't discouraged. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they also knew they couldn't give up. Later, as the ship drifted farther from Earth, Ryan recorded a final log entry. His voice was calm but tinged with sadness. "We came looking for answers, but we found something more important. A reason to hope. The Vern showed us that even after everything, trust is still possible." Their parting words echo in my mind. "You'll regret this conflict." I think they meant it as both a warning and a plea. It's up to us to decide whether we heed it. As the Odyssey disappeared into the vastness of space, its crew carried the memory of the Vern with them, a beacon of hope in a universe filled with uncertainty.